For the first 3 days out of 4 at the 2017 Reebok CrossFit Games, it has been the Matt Fraser Show, but there's still 1 day of action remaining, and it starts with men's event number 11. Brandon Domain, Chase Ingram, and Sam Farber with you here in Madison, Wisconsin. And yes, those are hay bales on the field.
Hay bales, and we're throwing in some heavy sandbags, a little bit lighter than they needed to use at the regional level, 100 pounds with those sandbags. They have to clean them, throw them over the hay bale, and then burpee over back to the other side. 7 total reps. Couple that with a 450-meter run times 5. This is going to be a long workout, but there's no time to let off the gas.
So that's the overview. Let's get a deeper look at this event with Sam Farber.
Well, guys, this is an event where size is going to play a role. Size certainly matters, not so much for any of these shorter athletes getting over roughly 4 feet of hay bales, but what happens as they go over. When taller athletes are grouped together, depending on how they try and get over the hay bales, maybe they're rolling over, they can contact another athlete. I was talking to Graham Holmberg, 6-time games competitor. He's on the demo team this year, and he recalled back in 2012 on the obstacle course, accidentally kicking Lucas Parker in the face. Not saying anything's going to happen intentionally here, but we could see some contact in this sport.
And the first group of athletes that we'll see if anybody does get kicked in the face or not will be here in heat number 1. And there's some good names in this one. Zach Carcetti, one of those Metcon monsters, might be somebody to keep an eye on in lane number 4. But Josh Bridges last night, we saw something we haven't seen all weekend long.
We had a Josh Bridges sighting, and that makes me very excited. I hope that whatever that was ailing him earlier has cleared. I want to see another Josh Bridges furious finish.
And Josh Bridges basically went into a sprint once that horn sounded. So he got around a couple of athletes right out of the gate. So we start with a 450-meter run, and the leader will be hard to figure out as they're starting with where their lane was in position. So if you were in lane number 1 or 2, like Wesley Rethwell or Alex Smith, you'll have a little bit of an edge over the rest of the field.
Will, and it's just the first run, and I think guys are trying to feel out the run and feel out the athletes around them. Now on the women's side, as they kind of pace the run, I take it back. Unfortunately for these athletes, you have to race the run, and then you have to race when you get to these hay bales. If you want to win this event, at least finish inside the top 5, you do not have time to have a slow pace. Look how fast Rob Forte is coming out on this first 400-meter run. This is the pace you need to start with, and it's going to be really hard to hold on to, but that's why this event was designed the way it is. You're going to have to go a lot harder than you want to.
Rob Forte had the lead. He was out of lane number 5. Paul Castillo out of lane number 6 will actually be leading the way as they make their way around that sweeping 180-degree right turn and back into the stadium for their first round of 7 hay bale burpees. So Paul Castillo and Alex Smith, both games rookies, surrounding the 7-time games qualifier Forte. The rest of the field making their way in. And one of the first ones back to the stadium is Josh Bridges, and he's one of those last lanes, so he's going to be in a pretty much better position than it looks right now.
And there's only about 5 or 10 seconds behind your top 3 leaders coming in, and you know, we're touching on how tall these are. And I don't see that being an issue for Josh Bridges in this event. It's not necessarily a big man or a short guy deficiency or advantage. It's just the beauty of this one is that it's just work. Are you willing to run harder than you want to? Are you willing to run harder than the athletes around you? And then can you stay aggressive on these cleans and burpees?
So we've got the feel of Madison. We've got some hay bales we're jumping over. We also got some cheese curds out there. For more on that 100-pound sandbag, we go to Sam Farber.
Well, typically when you see the judges out at the CrossFit Games, they're watching for technique, but this is an event where technique is situationally dependent. I was talking to CrossFit Games General Manager Justin Berg, and he was referencing the fact that there's hundreds of thousands of people all over the world who use CrossFit to just better themselves in their daily life. They're not trying to compete, and this is an event that kind of speaks to them. You're not necessarily looking for a particular kind of form. It's just getting the object over that hay bale. It's a way to show everyone who does CrossFit and puts it into their everyday life that these athletes are doing it here in this particular event.
Thank you, Sam. And the person that moved those cheese curds over the hay bale, along with their own body over the hay bale, the best here in round number 1 was Paul Castillo, continuing to lead the way as we start round 2.
A lot of these guys are off to a pretty quick pace in round number 1, and as fast as they go, I like the steady pace that Paul is. He has a nice stride, looks very comfortable. What you don't want to see is people kind of tense up in their shoulders on the runs, especially when you're coming into some sandbag cleans and hay bale burpees. But this is one of those athletes that did so well at the regional level in events that really were more those grinders, and that's what this event is. It's a long event, 15 minutes plus, with 5 long runs in between, and that's a hard thing to do, is maintain that intensity across this time domain.
Castillo with about a 30-foot advantage over Rob Forte in the dark blue shirt, holding the second place position. 2 athletes with significant experience when it comes to endurance work.
And that's what you want to see is, sometimes you get a workout that fits more within your wheelhouse, so to speak. And we've seen running already. It feels like 2 weeks ago when we started the CrossFit Games off with a 1.5-mile run, 500-meter swim, 1.5-mile run. That was on Thursday. We have another run that's over that 1.5-mile section within this 5-round.
Back to the field, Paul Castillo in first, Rob Forte in second. And they'll make the turn around the chest piece before anybody else makes their way back to the field. It'll be Holden Rethwell in second, James Newberry right there with them, in that battle for third. But Josh Bridges, you see him hopping over the wall on the top of the screen. He's got that number 5 spot going into round number 2.
And he got a good pace. Newberry actually has the fastest split so far in that 450-meter run, right around 2:09. And there's a lot of different ways to tackle this, and it's the balance between the two. He said before is that you're going to have to race the runs and race the cleans. The tough part is that when you have to race the run, there's no time to have a break, right? You're going to just slowly start elevating your heart rate. You're going to start breathing harder, and that never really, you don't get a break, and that's, I think, what the clean and the hay bale jump. Burpees are hard enough as they are, just always never letting you take a break, but that hay bale jump, that is a tough thing to do because of the exertion that it puts on your body to get over the top.
Those haystacks are 50 inches tall. Elijah Muhammad, one of the tallest athletes in the field, he's got a recorded box jump of 60 inches. This might be a good event for him if it comes to a battle on these hay bale clean burpees. But he's going to have some work to do to try to catch our 3 leaders as making their way into round number 3. It's Paul Castillo in first, Holden Rethwell making his move into second place, and Rob Forte rounding out the top 3. So a nice race starting as we reach the midway round of 5 in this 20-minute time cap event. Rob Forte about taking out that pylon there on the way, trying to get every second he can, cutting these turns as tight as possible. But Forte picking up the pace on this third run. He was 3 seconds quicker in round number 2 on this run over Castillo. Rethwell out of the top 3 actually had the fastest run, but he's starting to lag behind a little bit compared to Castillo and Forte. So a side-by-side lead for Castillo and Forte, but they've had to hold off Holden Rethwell. And where Rethwell's really been making up some time is on these hay bale clean burpees and in the transitions as well, as he was through that last round on that movement by just 55 seconds. And he'll be in the green tank top. And there's Rethwell on the bottom of the screen. That's impressive.
Oh, that makes up a lot of time. That saves you an incredible amount of time. That would be kind of hard to do that when you're going from burpee to burpee, just because that's one of those type of movements that you'll need a running start. But if you're coming into these later rounds where you have to clear 4 sets of hay bales to get to that final round, that could be a very good trick to have in your back pocket if it's coming down to a race towards the end.
Rob Forte, a slight lead over Paul Castillo. Forte, a rookie all the way back in 2011. As Rethwell, once again with those hurdles over this 50-inch hay bale, making up ground on that transition, which could be important in the end. So it's a 2011 rookie, Rob Forte, making his 7th consecutive appearance in first, and 2 rookies in second and third, with Paul Castillo and Holden Rethwell. Jason Carroll also moving his name into the mix. And somebody that won't be able to hurdle that easily over the hay bales is Dakota Rager. His hay bales are 50 inches tall. Rager is only 5'4".
But I like the way he uses this roll. Watching me, he'll kind of do a burpee. He'll roll and tuck the arm underneath. That's more of like a jiu-jitsu rollout where you kind of roll one shoulder underneath you, and it makes the rollout a lot easier. So yes, is he one of the shoulder athletes in the field? Is he eye level with the hay bale? But positioning and technique actually plays a big role when it comes to just trying to be more efficient getting over the hay bales.
Paul Castillo out in front, but on the bottom of the screen also going over those hurdles. New name in the mix, and it's Jason Carroll. He's going to have to make up a little bit of distance because he's a few lanes over. We'll have to see how that plays out as Wesley Rethwell once again in lane number 1. Those quick transitions on the hurdles. And all of a sudden, we've got a 5-person race for the lead. Castillo in first, Forte second, Jason Carroll with the blue headband in third, Holden Rethwell in the green tank top just ahead of also in a green tank top, James Newberry.
As you get to the 4th round, that, I think, to me, is the hardest part of a 5-round event. Because you get to your first 3, you kind of get in your rhythm in round 1, try to solidify that in 2, and hold on in 3. That 4th round is kind of that no man's land round when they have the 5. Anytime you're doing an event like this or inside your gym, is that 4th round tends to be the worst one. It's so hard to hang on to that pace, knowing full well you've already done 3, still have 1 more to go. So if you want to try to push the pace and maybe make a move, it's the 4th round where I'd like to see some athletes take some chances that need to.
Paul Castillo continuing to lead the way out of Toledo, Ohio. And in the 6 weeks leading up to the games, he completed 2 sprint triathlons in that time period. Not sure if there were any hay bales involved in those sprint tries, but he's somebody that's put in a lot of work on the endurance field, I should say, and he enjoys doing those sprint triathlons and pushing the tempo like he has been.
And a lot of that is just being comfortable being uncomfortable. To be, the intensity isn't high in terms of power output, but it is high in terms of your heart rate is jacked, you're breathing hard, and you feel like you got battery acid running through your veins. But it's never going to get necessarily any worse, and being able to be comfortable with that is a good advantage to have over the rest of the athletes.
New leader, though, getting to the chess pieces is Jason Carroll on the far right side of the screen. Over the last couple of rounds, his runs have just not dropped off that much. This latest one, 2 minutes 42 seconds, so Jason Carroll out in front by 1 rep, and his name highlighted in blue for the very first time as our heat leader.
And that was a good run split for Jason Carroll, who's just slowly kind of creeping up on everybody. But what he's really been doing is that he's been extremely fast on these cleans over the hay barrels. That is where he's made most of his moves on the other athletes in this field. And what you can kind of do is that you want to race at a pace on the run that is right near your threshold because there's not room to jog through this. But if you're comfortable enough to kind of power through these cleans, is that you can make up those 1 to 2 seconds per rep on the other guys.
Carroll through round number 4. He'll drop off that 100-pound sandbag. He'll have to hop over 4 hay bales before he starts the round. Paul Castillo 5 seconds behind him in green and blue near the bottom of the screen. But it's Jason Carroll already over 2. Now 3 of those hay bales, and as his name gets announced as a leader for the first time by the live MCs, he gives a little salute to the crowd on his way back out for his final round.
Once you get into that 5th round, I said the 4th round's the toughest to maintain a pace and to push a pace. What I like about Jason Carroll is that, as you see him kind of wave around, is that to be that relaxed and calm in this type of setting, that's a tough athlete to run down. When he was so quick, he still has the fastest split time on the cleans as anybody was in that 4th round. I want to see Carroll push the pace a little bit more. His advantage over Castillo is not just the distance between the two of them. When he gets onto the field, his finish mat or start mat is much closer to the left side of the field as they'll be approaching that on the way in than Paul Castillo's side. So not only does he have this distance advantage now, he's going to add about 20 more feet to that just by stepping onto the floor.
In round number 4, Carroll was 8 seconds faster than Castillo on the run, about 2.7 seconds quicker than Castillo on the hay bale portion of this event. For a good 10-second differential between the two. We'll see if he can keep that pace or if Paul Castillo can reel him back in. 3rd place, right behind Castillo, that would be James Newberry out of the Pacific Regional. He sits in 3rd. His run times have been just as fast as Carroll's, but he's been slower on the 7-rep portion.
Carroll's speed on the cleans has just been his efficiency between the reps. Everybody can be aggressive and powerful. It is only 100-pound sand. I say only 100-pound. It's come a long way to start saying things like that, but it's not as heavy as they've been used to. They had 150 at the regional level, and so there's a lot more confidence going into a weight like that than, say, a heavier sandbag.
He's got to hop over 4 of those hay bales before he gets to that 100-pound sandbag to start his work, but it's a significant lead for Jason Carroll, as Castillo is just now making his way over the first hay bale, as is Newberry. But Carroll already doing work. It'll be rep number 40 is the number you're looking for on the top of the screen. That will be the last one for Jason Carroll, who a year ago was 1 spot away from qualifying out of the California Regional.
Carroll's on the right side. Look at him looking over the bag. You see that landing position? Watch him. He's going to get a foot on top. He's not rolling. Foot on top, eye the bag. Watch him land right over the bag, picks it up. That is where he's making, I'm not going to say the joke because I was waiting for you to do it, making his hay in the event. But what he's doing is that he's cutting down, we're not talking about second, we're talking about multiple seconds per rep. So the roll, though it might be more fast over the top, there is a time delay how to get over the bag. You might see 20 other guys try to do this technique if they're able to watch in the background.
If technique moves the bar, efficiency moves the sandbag. Jason Carroll holding that sandbag up high and giving it a good old Gronk spike in the end zone as he leads the way. 17:01.63, just ahead of Paul Castillo by 11 seconds. And he was only 2 seconds quicker than James Newberry to round out the top 3 here in Heat 1. Dakota Rager, we said at the start of this height might come into play, but it certainly didn't there for the 5'4 Rager. As Michael Palumbo will round out the top 5. You saw him blurring by the screen a moment ago at 17:31. Holden Rethwill will hold for 6th. Tim Paulson in 7th. Zach Carcetti was trying to leg out Josh Bridges, but he was unable to do so, as Bridges will take 8th, Carcetti 9th, Forte. He was one of the leaders for the first 4 rounds, finds himself in 10th. 2,250 meters of running, 35 hay bale clean burpees with a 100-pound sandbag, and we've got about 13 finishers all within a minute of the lead. Looking for our next finisher, it should be Travis Williams, shirtless with the purple headband, the center of the screen, and it will be Williams out of the South Regional, 13th place at 18 minutes 37 seconds. Alex Smith, 18:47. We're still about a minute away from the 20-minute time cap. Jeff Patzer, Samuel Quant will have a foot race to the line. Give the edge to Patzer in the purple shirt on the top of the screen, just ahead of Quant in the neon yellow shirt. Tommy Venus in 17th, just behind them. And that leaves Zeke Grove as our last remaining athlete. 1 rep remaining. The sandbag is over. He's got to get his body over. Pick up that 100-pound sandbag, take it to the end zone, round out the field here in heat number 1. 19 minutes and 39 seconds for Zeke Grove out of Australia. But Jason Carroll, 17:01, will have the heat win and the event time to beat.
Right from the start, Paul Castillo was in the mix with your top 4 guys coming in. Rob Forte at a very quick pace, but Castillo was just grinding through these cleans a little bit faster than your top 3 guys, and it was pretty much those. We had Newberry, Forte, and Castillo. His rolls over the top on the runs back, a very quick, easy transition. And then it came down to that 4th round where Carroll moved up ahead at the bottom of your screen of Paul Castillo, but it was the technique and landing he was due over the hay bales, landing right on top, straddling that sandbag, that made the difference for Carroll at the end.
You get to the end zone, you just want to spike something there as Jason Carroll leads the way, 17 minutes, 1.63 seconds, looking for what could be his second top 10 finish of the weekend as we start the final day with heat number 2 of 2 coming up next.
Done with Maddison Triplet. Number 2 set to come out here momentarily.
We've changed the year, we've changed the venue, we've even changed the conditions on Matt Fraser. But 2016 and 2017 look eerily similar. After 10 events, with 1 day remaining at the 2017 Reebok CrossFit Games, it's Matt Fraser out in front by 174 points over Noah Olson, with Brent Fikowski holding on to that 3rd and final podium position as we start the last day of competition with event number 11.
Starting off with some running, some cleans, some hay barrels, throwing some burpees in there at the same time. 5 rounds. It's just a long grinder. We had a short sprint grinder earlier with the assault bike and that banger. Now we're extending the time frame, but keeping the intensity.
One thing that Matt Fraser can't do is get taller, and with more on how height could affect the athletes in this one, we go to Sam Farber.
Size could certainly play a role in this event. Not so much for even the shorter athletes getting over 4 feet worth of hay bales, but it could become a contact sport if you're next to a taller athlete, like, say, Brent Fikowski at 6'2". I was talking to a member of the demo team, Graham Holmberg, 6-time CrossFit Games competitor, and he recalled back in 2012 on the obstacle course accidentally kicking one of his fellow competitors in the face. Yes, sometimes the CrossFit Games are a contact sport.
Quite the height difference between Brent Fikowski and Matt Fraser, and it's also quite the points difference between them, first to third, 194 points. But here in heat number 2, as they try to catch Jason Carroll's leading time, there's a few athletes that have a shot at it, and while Matt Fraser is putting the finishing touches on a second title, it's one of the other former champions in the field that you're keeping an eye on.
Well, I'm keeping an eye on it because we finally get to see him again. Ben Smith has made his way back into the top 10. We haven't got to say his name a lot over the weekend, which is curious based off how the last 2 years have gone. Scott Panchek, there he is, sitting in 5th overall. He was well outside the top 15 early on during these games, now all the way back into the top 5.
Day 4 of 4 is now underway with heat 2 of 2 in men's event number 11 as they try to catch Jason Carroll's time of 17 minutes, 1.63 seconds.
As he come off on the first start of this 450-meter run around the back parking lot of this field, I want to see two athletes kind of go head-to-head, and thankfully they're right next to each other, is how Matt Fraser is going to push the pace on the runs. So you see him in the mix with the white leader jersey, already moving up into the top 5 position. But can Brent Fikowski stay with them? Because I think Fikowski will be a little bit faster on the cleans. Fikowski, who won the 100% event last year at the Games, which involved 20 D-ball cleans at 150 pounds at the end of burpees over a box. So this is a good event for Brent Fikowski to maybe add to his win total. Race the run, and unfortunately, race the hay. There is no pacing necessarily involved. And what I mean by that is you can't run slow. I'm not saying go out to a dead sprint, but if you want to win, you're going to have to run faster than you want to. When you get to the field, you're going to have to not take as many breaks as you want to between cleans. You're going to have to race the entire time.
Making their way back to the stadium, Cody Anderson is the first one to the field, but he's going to have to make his way all the way across the field to get to his lane. But Ricky Garrard started in lane number 12, and he's actually gone around Cody Anderson to lead the way as they step back up onto the platform. And Garrard will be out in front by a pretty decent margin, getting to that 100-pound sandbag ahead of Noah Olson in second, Matt Fraser in third, all three in lanes right there in the middle.
He's also wearing some gloves, and that can be an advantage, just so to speak, because you're not going to try to drag your hands on the hay or get your fingernails or stuff stuck in the turf. So Garrard's actually the only one out here using those gloves, and they can help with some grip as well, because with a 100-pound sandbag, it's not like the D-balls that they had at the Games last year or the 150-pound ones they had at regionals. You can just grab and throw with that 100 pounds, and those gloves can help that.
Leader's name, currently Ricky Garrard, will be highlighted in blue throughout this event. On the top of the screen, everybody else will be in red. If you see a number with a minus in front of it, that indicates how many reps they are behind the lead, which is continuing to be held by the Australian rookie, Ricky Garrard. Quick hop over the wall for Garrard, and Matt Fraser is right there with him, as is Jason Smith in all blue. So it'll be Garrard 1, Fraser 2, Jason Smith in third. And then there's about 8 athletes leaving the platform all at the same time right behind them.
It's hard to kind of really get a feel for the field after the first round because they are so spread out on the floor. What I love about Ricky Garrard all weekend is that he came in as a rookie. And most times with especially rookie male athletes, say for Patrick Vellner and Brent Fikowski last year, is that it's tough for them to make a big splash here on the big scene. Ricky Garrard has took it to these top multiple games year athletes. He also hasn't backed off when he's taken some licks of his own. Now you have Matt Fraser sitting in second just behind Garrard. I like Garrard's tenacity all weekend long.
Garrard with a very impressive rookie year, and he's 1 or 2 strides ahead of somebody else that had a very impressive rookie year. Matt Fraser had back-to-back second-place finishes before his championship win 1 year ago. At this point, after 10 events last year, he had 810 points, a 160-point lead over Ben Smith, who was in second place at the time, with 1 win over the course of that weekend. After 10 events this year, 850 points, 3 wins, and a 174-point lead over second place Noah Olson.
Ladies and gentlemen, these are your 20 fittest men through 10 events. When you see them re-enter, make some freaking noise. Who is going to be leading the pack? It's Gerard Fraser.
And here comes a field of 10 out of the field of 20, all within a handful of seconds of each other, back to the field to start round number 2.
Gerard's in one of those early lanes. Fraser's just going to be right next to him. And what I like to see Gerard is just don't hesitate. Grab the bag, toss it over, burpee jump, land, and grab. I hope that they can kind of saw what Jason Carroll did in the previous heat, where he was landing right on top of it, straddling the bag, and that just, you're saving seconds over the course of this event.
Top 10, Ricky Gerard all the way back to 10th place. Cody Anderson all within 10 seconds of each other, getting to their 100-pound sandbag. And in the middle, also in the mix, 5th to get to the sandbag was Noah Olson. And we spoke about Matt Fraser's impressive rookie year and what he's done since then. For Noah Olson, the last time we've seen him this high up in the point standings was in his rookie year when he was the points leader at the midway point.
And he had a fantastic rookie season. He ended up falling out of that after a few events, and sometimes the moment can get too big. But Noah Olson has had a wonderful career so far, this being his 3rd year in a row. I like the way he's approached this year's games, where it's not just about going fast and going hard. He's been very conservative and smart in his competition so far.
Ricky Gerard already made it his way to the track, but Matt Fraser is just ahead of Patrick Vellner and Garrett Fisher as they all make their way off the field. Jason Smith will be in 5th, just ahead of BK Goodmanson, Noah Olson, and Brent Fikowski. Ricky Gerard has been definitely exciting here in his first weekend of games competition at this level. He's been a bit of a home run hitter. He's had some swing and misses, though, throughout the way, but when he connects, it's definitely got some power to it as he leads the way here in this heat as we're on the 3rd 450-meter run of 5. And this is still significantly ahead of the pace of Jason Carroll, who has the top time to beat of 17 minutes 1 second.
And Ricky Gerard is slowly pulling away from Fraser, as you see some of the athletes behind him with Vellner and Fisher and Jason Smith creeping a little bit closer to Matt. But I think that is playing to his strategy a bit as he works from round to round to round.
Gerard leading the way. He entered this event 24 points behind Brent Fikowski for 3rd. Fikowski was just 2 points shy of that 3rd position 1 year ago. Matt Fraser, he doesn't have a whole lot to worry about, 174 points clear of Noah Olson in 2nd.
But Fraser is doing exactly what he needs to do, and it's funny all the time. We talk about one of the most second place finishes in events for Matt Fraser, but the deal is that the names above them when these events come by always are changing, just to show you the diversity of high-level skill sets that Matt Fraser has accrued over the years. Sean Woodland said it best last year during the sprint. There's nothing that Matt Fraser can't do, and it's not just do. There's nothing that he can't dominate, and dominate doesn't necessarily mean win every event, but taking second is a pretty good one too.
Fraser's tagline on social media posts is hard work pays off, and he's put in plenty of hard work as he looks to be wrapping up a 2nd consecutive title. Of course, there's still more to come today, but he's in a solid position as we start the final day. And he's trying to hold off Patrick Vellner in the gray shirt on the left of the screen, who's battling with him for 2nd. Brent Fikowski third in the point standings overall. He currently sits in 7th as they made their way back from that run.
Now, Vikowski is falling a little bit behind of your top 6 to 7 guys, and it's really coming here on these burpees and cleans as he's kind of grabbing and rolling the sandbag, where you see Fraser and these other guys just throwing it as hard as they can. But I like what Fraser is doing is he's landing side to side like we saw Jason Carroll do. He pushed the pace more that round than he did in the previous 2.
14 seconds the differential now from Ricky Garrard in first to Vellner and Fraser, who are tight for second and third. And Patrick Vellner has moved ahead of Matt Fraser just by a few strides as they start round number 4, well behind Ricky Garrard, who chose to get a little bit more aerodynamic on this 4th run of 450 meters by ditching the shirt.
And a lot of times in long events like this is that you talk about momentum, ebbs and flows throughout the weekend, not just with the field, but individually across the board. Ricky Garrard found himself all the way up in the top 2 at one point yesterday, but had a rough finish to the end of day on Saturday on the thrusters. He just said, it's like, I hate thrusters. So you were kind of, people might be curious, it's like, well, is he falling off? Is kind of that rookie wall starting to hit him? I think if there's any indication that he is not worried about how last night ended, the start of Sunday is the way to start things off for the 4th and final day.
And when you're a rookie, one of the questions is, you go to regionals, that's 3 days of competition. You don't often see 4-day competitions. How will you handle that extra day of competing? And Ricky Garrard starting his 4th day very, very well.
And I think people who know their history is like, well, they've competed 4 days at the CrossFit Games before. Yes, they have, but traditionally they've had a rest day or maybe a singular event day on that Thursday where they've been starting on Wednesday. This is 4 consecutive straight days of competition. We're talking about hundreds, if not thousands of reps that have gone by, from heavy lifting, light barbell cycling, endurance running, swimming, biking, climbing, moving odd objects up and down the field that weigh hundreds and hundreds of pounds. This is event 11 over the past 3 days. So it's just how impressive these athletes have been so far.
Garrard with those hurdles over those 50-inch tall hay bales. As Patrick Vellner starting to pull away a little bit from Matt Fraser. For Vellner, this could be big as he entered this event 6th in the point standings, trying to get back on the podium for a 2nd straight year. But Ricky Garrard trying to do the same.
And I like what Garrard's doing in the front part of the hay barrels, is that when he lands, he doesn't try to slide the bag under his hands to get a better grip. He just grabs, stands, throws. That's what you want to see. If this were a heavier bag, then yes, the technique of kind of rolling it to one hand, pulling it to your hip, getting it over. You don't need to do that with a 100-pound bag. And that's, I think, where sometimes, as he is the only one wearing gloves, it does help because you're not worried about kind of, sometimes a lot of times your fingernails can get caught underneath or hit the rubber if you're using the rubber floors. With that technique of being able to stand up, land right over the bag, grab and throw, that's where Ricky Garrard is really pulling away of everybody.
Ricky Garrard is starting round number 5, but starting round number 4 back in the hay bale portion of this one is Noah Olson, who was one of the early leaders. He now finds himself in 9th place in this heat. And he's not safe on that podium battle, as he was only 44 points ahead of Ricky Garrard in 4th.
And we're looking at what does that mean in terms of finishing places in events like this. And we're looking at the scoring system. It rewards winning. We're talking at 100 points to the winner. And they decrease in reps beyond that. If you were to get 10th place in this event, which is a fantastic finish at the CrossFit Games, you're going to lose 40 points to whoever won the heat. So if Ricky Garrard can get 100 points and Noah Olson has a great finish of 10th, he'll only be 4 points behind him after one event.
Last round underway. Jason Carroll, who has the event lead at 17:01, he started his last round right now. Ricky Garrard's already through half of this 450-meter run and about 200 meters clear of Patrick Vellner in second.
Now, I thought Fikowski was really falling back, but he's just behind Matt Fraser in the blue and yellow shorts. So Fikowski, which seemed like he started slow, but he knows his pace and how to race, and you'll probably see him push hard coming into this final round. So Brent Fikowski has moved back up into contention here.
Top 5 rounded out by Bjorkvin Carl Gudmundsson, who you saw behind Fikowski a moment ago. This the race for 2nd through 5th, currently held by Patrick Vellner, Matt Fraser in the white leader's jersey in 3rd. But Ricky Garrard, he could look behind him, he could look around all day, and he won't see anybody around him, as Noah Olson just starting his last round as he continues to fade. He's now down to 12th, but Ricky Garrard is just putting on a show to start day number 4.
I mean, nothing like a fist bump coming into this stage out here.
Whoa, that could have been pretty bad as he rolled his ankle a little bit, running over those mats. Looks to be all right as he's hopping over those hay bales with relative ease. They're over 4 feet tall. Maybe minus an inch or 2 at this point with all the compression, but.
And I just love the non-hesitation when it comes to just grabbing, cleaning, and throwing. Just brute grunt work right there. He's been doing this stuff all weekend long. I just love the tenacity we've been getting from Ricky Garrard. What a surprise.
This will be 4 reps out of 7 for Garrard. Vellner, Fraser, and Fikowski just now got back to the field. Ricky Garrard won cyclocross in impressive fashion. He's doing the same to start day number 4 and way ahead of 2nd place in the point standings, Noah Olson. It's an event win, and it's a gigantic points win for the super rookie out of Australia, Ricky Garrard.
To put 100 points in the Ricky Garrard bank, as we are going to have to start watching how people finish between him and Noah Olson. Fikowski, who is sitting in 3rd, is trying to stay with Fraser and keep that 3rd place position. Vellner is making a push just above them in the gray and yellow too.
Important to note, we're still 45 seconds away of Jason Carroll's time, which is the fastest in heat number 1. And the pace is picking up for both Fikowski in blue, Vellner in gray, Fraser in white. They're all working on their final rep. Give the edge in the position of Vellner in 2nd. Fraser will be in 3rd. And Brent Fikowski will finish 4th in the heat and 4th in the event. 24-point edge for Fikowski over Ricky Garrard. He'll lose 16 of them here in this event, so it'll be 8 points the difference there. But more importantly for Ricky Garrard's podium hopes, where is Noah Olson? Jason Smith looking to be our next finisher, as Travis Mayer has just crossed the line at 17:01.04. Good for 6th best, just ahead of Jason Carroll's event 1 time. Jason Smith in at 17:07. Logan Collins will finish at 8th as we watch Ben Smith, the 2015 Games champion. A couple of reps remain for him. He's not sitting in a good position. Neither is Scott Panchik. And we always joke, no matter what you do to him, he's going to finish 4th, 5th, or 6th at the Games. He's done it 5 consecutive years. But he's going to take a points hit here this time.
Now he's sitting in 5th after this event as him and Ben Smith are side by side. We're hoping to see Panchik at least hold on to that position, maybe have an opportunity to move up.
Speaking of points hits, Ben Smith just ahead of Noah Olson in all blue. So Noah 15th in the heat, 26th in the event. And what do you get for that finish? 28 points.
Talking about a 72-point difference between Ricky Garrard and Noah Olson in one single event. So when you guys think it's all over when they're up by 50 points, so many different things can happen in a single event. Nothing is for certain here.
Even worse when you're looking at the top 5 hopes and podium hopes of Scott Panchik. He only gets 20 points as he finishes 30th in this event. So we have 1:20 seconds remaining. Lucas Esslinger has crossed the line. Cole Sager will be our final athlete left as he's working on his last rep. And you see the destruction of athletes in the end zone that have finished this event. And this is just the start of the last day of competition. So the Maddison Triplet on the women's side, it couldn't have been a whole lot better for Tia Claire Toomey. On the men's side, it definitely couldn't have been better for Ricky Garrard.
When he's, like I said, he had a second place podium position going into the day yesterday and had a big loss of points when we finished out last night in the heavy 17.5. Well, how do you make that up? Well, you start fast, you even continue the pace through, and Ricky Garrard just never let off the gas. He was first in the hay bales after round 1, and once he got to round 2 and 3, he just continued to move that or open up that lead. Noah Olson, who has made it all the way back up into second place after last night, and it seemed like he had a comfortable point lead. That has now been all but erased. Fellner, and we hadn't said his name much, he's been creeping around, sitting in that 6th place position, getting himself a 2nd place finish. We're talking about it pays to be a winner with this scoring system. 100 points is huge, especially on the last day of competition.
So Ricky Garrard, not many rookies will get multiple event wins in a single games weekend. Garrard has done just that. The winner of cyclocross is also the winner of the Maddison Triplet by nearly 40 seconds over Patrick Fellner, and Matt Fraser will continue to have that gigantic points lead as he takes 3rd.
And I like the way it started because it's mild amount of chaos. And Matt Fraser, regardless of what you can throw out there, whether it's heavyweight, short events, long events, different types of monostructural running, swimming, rowing, throw the elements at this guy, and he still extends his lead over the rest of the field by tens of points on the leaderboard.
Yeah, Matt Fraser is proving to basically be a cyborg at this point in his career. 198 points is the lead for Fraser over Fikowski, but only 36 points separate Fikowski, Garrard, who's now in 3rd, and Noah Olson, who fell all the way from 2nd down to 4th in the point standings, with Patrick Fellner closing the gap as well. But the big winner here in this event is the event winner, Ricky Garrard, who's with Sam Farber.
Ricky, the win here in the Maddison Triplet, dealing with